the Zeta Recular, or as they're commonly known, the gray aliens. The Zeta Recular, commonly called the Zeta, are a bipedal, advanced level of semi-biologic, hybrid organic electronic component order of beings with large eyes and a massive cranium housing a semi-electronic hybrid neural organ brain. The Zeta Recular are extremely intelligent, technologically advanced, and industrious beings hailing from a neighboring galaxy with a culture that is on the average 3,000 years ahead of Urantia's current third millennium technology and social development. As far back as your 13th century, the Zeta Recular had sojourned on Urantia and implanted 3 small but highly powerful tracking devices in 3 oceans, which monitored and recorded the intensity of tidal currents, including the effects of lunar gravity on coastal tides and earthquakes. The Zetas would also monitor the progress of your seafaring explorers of that time period. Several centuries later, 2 Zeta tracking systems had failed, but the third remained operative off the southeast Atlantic coast of the United States. Although these tracking fields were not purposely intended to cause disruptions to navigation vehicles of those times, the Atlantic tracking field has remained a mystery to sea ships and aircraft that journey through its field due to unusual microsonic disturbances generated by the small but powerful microcrystal device. So now we know what caused the Bermuda Triangle. In more recent years, the intensity of the triangular field currents of the Atlantic monitoring system have exponentially diminished, that finding this tiny tracking device buried deep in the ocean with your current technology would be likened to the proverbial needle in a haystack. At the dawn of your 20th century, the system administration of the Zeta Recular had mandated contact be established between their world and Urantia, which is in close proximity to their established operatives on Molcombria, and whereby the Zeta would also contribute high-level technology to the scientists and governments of your world. In view of the devastating nuclear weapon technology Urantia physicists had discovered, developed, and deployed during the mid-20th century, the Zeta Recular felt great urgency to communicate and warn the governments and peoples of Urantia of the ramifications of unbridled use of nuclear energy for destructive purposes. During your year of 1947, a series of scouting expeditions were initiated by the Zeta Recular, whereby several of their vehicles entered Urantia airspace with the goal of landing on U.S. soil in order to establish one-on-one communications with the peoples of your world and to proclaim good tidings for all, with the goal of permanently ending all nuclear proliferation on Urantia. The Zeta administration had placed great urgency on their mission, and they sought to persuade your governments into disarming all thermonuclear weapons testing programs. Furthermore, the Zeta planned to contribute their highly advanced technology to your world, which would bring mankind on Urantia into a new age, free from self-destruction, with flourishing technological progress, centuries sooner than your current pace of scientific and technological progress. In 1947, a Zeta scouting party traveling in a cyclodiscus set out to perform atmospheric analysis and to assess the amounts of lethal nuclear radiation that contaminated Urantia's atmosphere during those times, especially in the vicinity of the southwestern U.S. desert testing grounds. But a most disastrous and devastating turn of events occurred. During their mission, the cyclodiscus, carrying a Zeta chief operator, a micromagnetic engineer, and a pregnant astrophysicist, had set out to perform a series of tests and atmospheric analysis. Shortly after entering Urantia's atmosphere over Central America, the Zeta's small cyclodiscus craft was discovered by military radar, and the craft was tracked for several hundred miles as it made its way northward into U.S. territory. When their cyclodiscus entered forbidden airspace, it was fired upon, and the craft crashed into the desert, spreading mysterious debris for miles around the crash site, including remnants of the crew's resilient crystalia spacesuits. The shiny crystalia fabric became of particular interest among the local civilians who discovered the Zeta's demolished spacecraft that day. 2 Zeta crew members were found dead at the crash site, and the third died in a high-security captivity several days later. All remains and artifacts were confiscated by government officials for scientific and medical analysis under its highest national security measures. Although our superiors deemed it essential to provide Urantia these particular revelations, We cannot provide any further details on this highly sensitive tragic incident. At the time of this presentation, and for more than 72 of your years after the incident, although some details of the crash have surfaced, no government agency has ever taken responsibility for the ambush, but to the contrary, certain officials deny the incident ever occurred. This incident, among others, has remained highly classified, stirring much controversy, speculation, and myths considered a cover-up by many. But in actuality, this particular event has had far more detrimental repercussions than may be perceived, causing setbacks in interplanetary and intergalactic communications. But the Zeta Recular will never seek retaliation. Since that time, although they continue to execute experimental missions on Urantia, and their crafts are occasionally spotted, they remain extremely hesitant to initiate direct contact with humans, as would any advanced level beings in a seemingly primitive, hostile world. And this is a quote from the hidden memoirs of Socrates. Technology is power, and we must learn how to master technology itself. Great civilizations are not maintained by war or acts of vengeance, but rather by cooperation and acts of altruism.